Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our another session where I'm going to share with you one subject which might be of interest to who are into practice of whether it is Ayurveda, whether it is naturopathy, herbal medicine, Chinese medicine or any other medicine, as well as the practitioner and the public who choose their practitioner for various problems. First of all, if we look at into this part, that why someone will choose another practitioner other than our mainstream Western medicine, what we call as. I'm sure whatever they will pick up, they want to go towards. Their focus is that somehow they are unsatisfied with Western medicine's approach. And they want some different approach to whatever the problem they are facing. Physical problem, mental problem, emotional problem. Whatever advice they want, they're looking for some different advice. Whatever products they want, they are keen that I should not be given drugs. I'm looking for something which has different principle to work for my well-being. When they pick up another practitioner, then the Western medicine doctors or practitioner, their focus is that that practitioner will be diagnosing my problem in a different way, not the same approach where my symptoms will be identified and I will get an asymptomatic approach. So these are the few basic components which we all understand. So when we look at what is conscious practitioner, what and why one has to select them, so first component part comes up that a conscious practice or a conscious practitioner's approach has to be bigger. Bigger in the sense is a practitioner who is always looking totally different approach, whether we call it physiology, anatomy, Ayurvedic aspects, or I'm not here talking on the Ayurvedic component only, I'm talking general conscious practice and practitioners' approaches and the selection. So in that respect, there are certain components which person who is trying to approach a practitioner as well as a practitioner himself or herself need to look at, is that the approach I am following to put myself into that category? Now if I look at first of all, when a client comes to any practitioner or a customer is selecting a practitioner, and if that practitioner approach is still the same, what we call as objective approach, and they are not giving any consideration to the subjective understanding of the body. So when we talk about subjective understanding of the body is what we simply understand that we are microcosm of this big macrocosm. No matter whatever modality I am practicing, it is a reality that this macrocosm in which we are living has an impact on us. And this macrocosm, we call it as universe or whatever you want to call it, or environment, surrounding, we need to understand what impact that has on an individual. So to assess that, I need to also have the understanding that what this macrocosm, what this universe is composed of, and we call it as 5 elements. We all understand that: ether, air, fire, water, earth. And these elements are building block of this macrocosm. And the same is happening in our body. Our body is also building block of these 5 elements. And if we look at from the Western medicine's perspective, we talk about the same principle of the building blocks of whatever organic or non-organic substances we look at around us. But we never give any consideration to those. Whether we look at in our body the protein, carb and the fat, whether we're talking about amino acid, whether we're talking about the glucose or glycogen or whatever we talk about of the fatty acid, these are building blocks of various components. But in our Western medicine, we have no considerations on that. And if you are choosing a practitioner who also have no understanding on that, but working as an alternative practitioner, it means his or her approach will be the same what a medical doctor is going to follow for. So that's not giving you that conscious approach, what you are looking for as a customer, as a client. And now, if you visiting a practitioner and he and she also has focus on your diet based on how much carb, how much protein, how much fat you are consuming, then he or she is not giving you any alternative option. You are following the same approach what a medical doctor is following. Yes, one step you can say that medical doctor has nothing to do with the diet, and other practitioner might give you a bit of consideration. But if that consideration, if that diet planning, if that nutrition is only revolving around that how much fat, how much carb you are going to use, that is not a conscious advice on the diet. Conscious advice has to be that whatever you have eaten, how that food is metabolizing in your body, how your bodily metabolic intelligence is working, how the food eaten by you, the way you are eating, what is the state of your mind at that time of eating, what factors has been selected and considered while planning your diet. If these are not followed by whoever the practitioner is, then it means they have no consideration on conscious practice. Their focus is again the same what a medical doctor is doing. Now in relation to the advice on the herbs or advice on the products, I can say, if your practitioner or if you as a practitioner still selecting such product which will be just as supplement or supplementing the problem which you are having, then that is not an unconscious practice. And how it can be? You need to ask yourself. If you are having some gut problem, and you are being given supplement to supplement those enzymes which require to do the job in your system for that metabolic process, and that practitioner has not looked into the core cause of why that particular enzyme is not being produced in the right amount at the right time in your body, then it's not in a conscious practice. That is where certain element has to be looked at. And now look at ourselves. If, say, I am following conscious lifestyle, and in that I am against animal cruelty because I follow vegan lifestyle, but then if I am using products, whatever supplement I am picking up, as I just mentioned, even for your physical ailment, whether it is your gut problem, whether it's your diabetes, or whether it is your arthritis, you are taking a shark cartilage, you are taking a fish oil, you are taking a glucosamine, or you are taking a magnesium, or you are taking various kind of enzyme product. You need to ask yourself, when these products are done as a research, so we always call as scientific evidence. This is what our Western medicine's focus is, to talk about everything scientifically proved, scientific evidence, and that's what, if as a practitioner or as a client, I am consuming or prescribing these products, which has been researched and tested in those labs where these tests has been done on animals, whether it is cat, whether it is dog, whether it is rat, whether it is pig, then what is that? Nothing but animal cruelty. We talk about that I am against animal cruelty, but how come I can then consume those products? I never even given a thought on those things. And that's what we call as then our pseudo approach towards conscious living, and then the same is a conscious practice. If I want to be a practitioner who is not a medical practitioner, because they have their own way of working, nothing wrong with that. They never question themselves or they never say anything. They always say that we are medical doctors and our approach is that way. And that's what, at least they are honest to themselves. But when we talk about ourselves, that we are practitioner of whatever modality we talk about, then what is the difference between us and the medical doctors? If my way of diagnosis is the same, if my way of treating my client symptomatically, then what is the difference between me and them? If my advice to my client is to use these kind of supplement and not correcting the cause through those supplement or medicine, then what is the difference between taking any antibiotics or antihistamines as compared to whatever the products, vitamins and other kind of products, or what has been prescribed by me as a practitioner will be? Nothing. So that's something we need to look at. And if I'm looking into the diagnosis part, and then again, if my approach is only to assess your problem by checking your blood report, ESR, and your WBCs are high, or your inflammatory components are high, or you have a high diabetic glucose indicators up, and then assessing you that yes, you have a diabetes, you are having an arthritis, or you have those kind of problems, then what is the difference between me and medical practitioner? That is one thing every practitioner must ask themselves. That is where the conscious practice comes up. And then same is for those who are looking for a conscious practitioner, because I want to follow something different from my medical doctor, and that's what I'm selecting, a practitioner who can guide me, who can advise me on that path of well-being, rather than just giving me a symptomatic solution, is not going to then help you, or what you are selecting, you are not selecting the right kind of practitioner. And that's the reason of me having this subject today, that we, either as a practitioner, either as a client, must make a conscious decision that whom I am selecting and how my practice is. Is my practice is revolving around different from Western medicine's approach or Western medicine doctor, or I am the same, or do I have the back entry into the medical profession by just saying because I am a different kind of practitioner? That approach is not something we should follow, and we should share with our client. We should win their trust. We should be honest to them, and that's what our public, our client expect from us as a practitioner. And also for public, they should select such practitioner if they are really going towards that kind of approach, that they should not be expecting such kind of product which are only supplementing their problems and not correcting them from the core cause, not treating the root cause, whatever, whether you are taking any herbs also. And that's what the difference is in Ayurvedic approach. When you are selecting an Ayurvedic product or Ayurvedic herbs, their focus is to correct the core cause of your problem, not just giving you symptomatic solution. In the same way, a Ayurvedic practitioner's advice about diet will be not just how much carb, how much fat you need. He or she need to look at the bigger picture, that how your diet should be structured based on your constitution, based on your state of mind, based on the season, and how you should be consuming, and how various combinations going to impact on your digestion and end result. In the same way, if they are going to give you some advice on some of the mental or emotional issue, they need to look at bigger picture. They don't need to give you, if you're having a sleeping problem, then some kind of, not giving the sleeping pill from our Western doctor, but still giving you a pill which will make you to sleep, but not correcting the cause of the why I am not able to sleep at the first place. And that's what the conscious practice is all about, and conscious practitioner is all about. And that's what collectively we must consider. And now someone will ask, what is the impact? Why we should be bothered about these things? Why I cannot just have a backdoor entrance into medical system and call myself as a complementary medicine practitioner, right? What is a big deal? Reason is, if I have chosen to be a follower of my conscious, listen to my conscious, right? But I am only projecting myself to be a person that who listen to my conscious all the time, but never ever follow that approach when I'm dealing with my client. An example is, if someone is coming to us and they have some problem which they are suffering from, whether it is stress or in a depression or in a panic attack, but myself is also having a panic attack, myself has a problem of sleep, and I am also on antidepressant, whether I will call them as my natural antidepressant, then where my conscious is all about. And in the same way, that practitioner, the client who is following a conscious approach for their well-being, and on that basis they become a vegan or so, or follow plant-based diet, but if they are also using those kind of products in the bottles which has all that cruelty element, then how they are selecting their conscious approach towards their living. And these are the few simple components which we both as a customer, as a practitioner must follow, so that at the end of the day we don't carry any burden on our soul, on our spirit, on our conscious, and able to live that life which will have lessened our karmas rather than adding to our karmas. And that's what we're trying to practice. That is why we are not on the path of being a medical doctor. As medical doctors can be honest to their profession, why we cannot be honest to our profession? If they don't give up their smoking, because they never tell anyone not to smoke. But if we are trying to tell someone don't smoke, or marijuana or these mind-altering drugs has an impact on your well-being, but then in the evening I am doing the same thing, what is the difference between then us and the others? And that's what every conscious practitioner must follow, and that is the biggest principle what Ayurvedic practitioner always try to follow. Those who are following traditional Ayurvedic principle, their practice is always revolving around conscious practice principles, and the same way they advise to their client also. That is why sometimes it becomes difficult for those customers who are coming for their well-being towards the Ayurvedic practitioner, because Ayurvedic practitioner is not just interested to have you as a client in their clinic. Their role is, if you have made a commitment to come to his or her clinic, he or she will be 200% committed for your well-being. That is the ultimate goal they are trying to achieve for you as well as for themselves. But that has to come up as a collective effort. And that's what conscious practice is all about. And conscious practice has a lot of benefit for both practitioner as well as customer. And that's what we feel that we can advise you as a Ayurvedic doctor, that we all must follow. Time has come now that rather than always looking backdoor entrance to the medical profession, we should be able to have that honesty to our profession and honesty towards our client, and also for customer to select those kind of practitioners who have a more conscious practice approach. Thank you, everyone.